What does it mean to feel a feeling? This isn't actually as obvious as it sounds, and it's actually really helpful to be quite specific about what that means to feel a feeling. And so that's what we're going to explore today, because I talk about that a lot. And here I'm going to give you a definition for what it means to feel a feeling, some of the other ways we tend to respond to feelings, some of the prerequisites, what do you need to have in place in order to be able to feel something fully, and some of the different stages, how do you know you're doing it right, this kind of thing. So you're feeling a feeling when your attention is on the experience of that feeling in the body. So you're with the direct experience of that physiological energy that you feel, and you're letting it be itself fully. So you're letting it move and sort of emote and express and be as it wants to be, without resistance being in place, without parts of you that are coming in to protect you, to push that feeling away or modify it or hold it back or limit it in some way. And those protections, there's nothing wrong with those in any way. No, those have kept you very, very safe, but it's something to pay attention to if we're trying to or wanting to feel our feelings more deeply. And if you want to know why you might want to do that, you can check out some of my other videos. So what do I mean, by these three aspects? So say you have sadness in your chest. You're feeling that sadness when you're able to put your attention there, almost as if your attention is like holding that ball of sadness. If it's, it might not be shaped like a ball. That's just an example. And you're really experiencing it fully. So you're letting that part of you be sad. Maybe you can feel it to move around your chest. You're letting it move. And there comes a point, if the prerequisites in place, if we feel safe enough and that resistance isn't there, we kind of crack open. And then the tears start coming, we start sobbing. You can feel that emotion start to flow through you. You almost can't help it. It's like the movement of life itself flowing through you. And you become that part. Not in the sense of being really over-identified or merged or blended with it. You're kind of still grounded and connected, but you're just really fully allowing that sadness. Just letting yourself experience what it is to be sad. The same goes for other emotions like anger. If you can feel the anger in your arms, you're letting it, you've got your attention in that part of your body and you're letting it tense, if it wants to do that. If it wants to say no, that's not okay. It's like, that's not okay. That's not okay. That's not okay. Arrgh. You're sort of becoming and letting that part of you flow through you for a while. If there's shame, in your belly, for example, you might feel that tension, that tightness, that heaviness of shame. It's you're stepping into it and letting it be itself. So if that shame is saying, I'm not good enough, you're stepping into that place for a moment of, okay, I'm not good enough. Let's let that be true. And letting the body move how, maybe it wants to curl inwards and hide with shame. And your attention's with that and you're really letting it be itself. And in that moment, if, again, there's a moment with shame, it really cracks. So you can really just feel that energy. You're really present and direct with it. That's what it means to feel a feeling, that sense of presence and directness, of fully experiencing, becoming that part of yourself without inhibiting it, of being, these are the reasons why I'm good enough, or these are the reasons why I shouldn't be angry, or whatever else. This is in contrast to the other ways of feeling. So there are three kind of ways we tend to respond to feelings. The first is that we suppress or repress them. So an emotion starts to come up and protector parts come into it. Nah, we're not going there. We're not feeling that. And again, there are often very good reasons for this. In fact, there are always very good reasons for why this happens. But in that case, it's all we have to know here is that's not fully feeling a feeling. On the other extreme, we kind of act them out. We act out our emotions. So if there's anger there and it doesn't feel fully safe to feel it, it comes out sideways. Maybe we lash out at other people or we're passive aggressive. Maybe our shame comes out sideways. If we act out our shame, we might, engage in addictive behaviors, or we might sabotage ourselves in certain ways. For example, these are, again, it's when the emotion is almost spilling out over the top into our behaviors. And the middle way, which is the feeling of a feeling, is where you're not repressing it. You're not having it spill over or act out. You're very present with it. You're still allowing it, but it's not kind of going into one of these two extremes. The key to feeling a feeling, what transforms it, what transforms and transmutes your feelings, your negative, painful feelings, into something more positive, is your attention. Your loving attention is the healing agent, the transformative agent. So it's when you put your attention on something, and that's what makes it feel held, what makes it feel loved in some ultimate sense, so that it can change, transform, because these emotions, they don't want to get stuck in your system forever. They actually want to come up and be felt and transform into their opposite. But that attention is that agent that helps them to do that. And the only reason that doesn't come in is just, like I said, sometimes it feels really unsafe to feel these feelings, and we'll get to that in a moment. But it's difficult to feel and put your attention on these feelings. Most of the time, it's because we're thinking, right? So this is, our society is a society that's totally in its head. And as a general rule, if you're thinking, you're not feeling. And there are many layers of thought, actually. You can get caught in subtler and subtler layers of thought. As you get good and better at this, you'll notice yourself getting caught in subtler and subtler little layers of thought. And that's okay, but as you notice that, you want to come back to that direct experience of the feeling. Or at least that's where you need to end up. Sometimes you need to work with thought for a while, listen to the stories, listen to what these feelings are saying. That's actually another important part of feeling a feeling. Sometimes you need to really just listen to what this feeling is saying. There's something it couldn't say that needs to be expressed. You need to really allow that and listen and help that part of you really to feel heard and seen. That's actually a really critical part that I should have put in the first section. That's what it means to fully let that feeling be itself, is also to let those expressions come forward and the stories of, hey, I can't believe that happened to me. This was really, really horrible. It was really hard. I felt so unsafe. I was so scared. And I was totally alone. I didn't have anyone to support me. It was terrifying. And really hearing that is such an important part of this. And if this is what I call using the mind as a gateway to the body. It's if you really let those expressions come up and be heard, you'll find that it helps you go more deeply into the feeling as you're allowing that. So it's like, if there's a part of you that's sad, maybe you need to just listen. Like I said, all those things. I was so alone. I was so sad. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. And as you really listen, there comes a point, it suddenly cracks open in the way I described. And then because you heard it, because you listened, it then opens itself up and you can let that feeling come forward. But going back to thinking and feeling, with that exception, if you're in your thoughts, you're not present with the direct experience of the feeling. And that's where you need to be to really process the feelings and emotions. So it has to always kind of end up there in some way. And just watch out for the subtler and subtler layers of thought. You can think your attention's on there, and then you're in this subtle little layer of just wondering about, oh, is it going this way? Is it going that way? What's going to happen next? Or, you're kind of subtly trying to, analyze what's happening and why it's happening. And you're not quite with that direct experience of the feeling. So I talked a little bit about safety. So there are some sort of prerequisites for feeling a feeling. Some things that need to be in place if you're going to be able to do this. And you cannot force it, right? So if you kind of sense there's a feeling down there somewhere, you can't force it to come up. Or if there's a part of you that's resisting a particular feeling, you can't bludgeon your way through that. That's just going to cause these disconnects and protector parts to hold on even more tightly, right? So the first prerequisite is safety. You need to feel safe enough to be present in your body, to be present with the sensations and the emotions. Because all these traumas and wounds were created precisely in the absence of safety. So that's foundational. Go check out my video on resourcing, which is all about cultivating safety in the body. Capacity is the next prerequisite. So your nervous system has a certain capacity, tolerance. There's a certain intensity that it can manage, and beyond which it's too much and it'll start to disconnect and coping mechanisms will come in, or you're going to start to get re-traumatized. Capacity is something that you can grow, and by doing somatic and emotional work at the right pace for you, bit by bit, learning to touch in on different feelings and emotions, bit by bit, you can grow that capacity. And you are not going to be able to fully feel a feeling unless you have the capacity to do so. And that's fine. It's like saying, oh, at the gym, I can't lift this heavier weight until I've trained with some of the smaller ones. And that's great. So you just go in with what, where you're at and what feels manageable. And by dipping into these emotions again and again and again, you train your nervous system to grow in capacity bigger and bigger and to open up more and more and more. The third is presence. This is similar to what I was talking about with the attention. Your presence needs to be felt with that feeling. So sometimes we can get very absorbed or identified, merged with a feeling. So we're kind of like totally stuck to it. We're almost so close to it we can't see it. And we need a little bit of distance, but without disconnecting from it. And that's what presence is. Presence is you're really present and connected to your body and your sensations, but you're not like merged with it in a sort of unhealthy sense. You're still able to be like, okay, this is a part of me that's here. It's not all of me. It's like being able to be present with your hand. It's like your hand is you in some sense, but you're not like what I am is a hand and that's all that exists of me. You know what I mean? It's like there's a certain distance you have from it, even as it's part of you that you're connected to. Containment is the next one. This is a sense that it's kind of a mixture of all the first three, really. If you're containing something, is you can be present with it, you have the capacity there, and you're really holding it. It's a sense of being held. All these emotions and feelings, they want to be held just as they are. Just like you do. Think about it that way. When you feel safest is when you feel held by the people around you, and you can be exactly as you are with your fears, with your flaws, whatever it is, and you feel like they're not gonna let go. They're gonna keep holding you. That's the energy you want to bring to these feelings as well, because I promise you they just want to be held and heard. The next one is willingness, or intention, readiness, you could call this. Sometimes we're just not ready to go to a particular place, and it's important to honor that. These things cannot be rushed. It's in a certain sense out of our control. We can't make things happen in this journey. There's just an attunement to when we're ready to go to certain places, and that having that willingness. Okay, I'm ready now to meet this part. And that's again, it's sort of not something you can teach or make happen. It's just grace that comes in, and you just suddenly feel, no, I can go there now. And you can feel the difference when you've got that safety and capacity, presence, containment, willingness. Feel how different that feels to like the absence of those, when you feel unsafe, like you don't really have the capacity to go there. You're kind of over-identified with these things, and you're not really ready to go there yet. In this situation, that's where you want to develop those resources and capacities first to give you these skills or abilities, or whatever you want to call it. Working with resistance to our feelings and those protector parts, also really important here, but I don't want to go down, that's a big rabbit hole. I've got a big video on resistance. Just type resistance into the channel and you can get all the details there. Next is talking about the 3 stages of this, because at the beginning I described quite a full-on way of being with feelings, and we can't jump straight into that. So the first stage is actually when we're maybe lacking some of these prerequisites that I just mentioned. So we're not feeling safe in the body. And by safe, it's important to say, I don't mean by safe that everything feels great and it's like you can dissolve into a orgasmic champagne bliss bubble bath of joy in your body. But it means that you can put your attention there and it's manageable. You can stay present with what's going on, and it's kind of okay. That's what I mean by safety. You don't have to disconnect in some way. So building that sense of being able to be present in your experience is the first stage. And that doesn't involve processing or feeling feelings yet. That just involves connecting to sensations in a way that feels safe, learning to explore your body, discern what you're feeling, and so on and so forth. The second stage is where you're processing the emotions. So that's actually when you're feeling these feelings in the way I described at the beginning. Your attention's with them, you're allowing them as they are, you're holding them, loving them essentially, and they can be expressed and felt, and that energy can move through. The third stage is kind of an integration and reconnection. So you've integrated these parts of you that were disconnected, were unintegrated. And when that happens, there's a new kind of part of your sense of self emerges. So because you've now integrated something that was lost or disconnected, that comes together with all the other parts of you you've integrated. And there's a kind of the new whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So there's almost like a new you in some small way, or maybe a big way, that emerges. And it's important to be aware of that and to notice that and encourage that and lean into that, or notice where there's fear of it. So for example, if you've integrated a lot of anger that you were previously disconnected from, you might find a new sense of strength or a new capability to set boundaries or say no, or things like this, right? This is the integration of that anger and an emergence of new capacities and a new sense of self in small or large ways. So how can you tell if you're kind of feeling these feelings right? At the stage 1, which is where you're still building safety and connecting to the body, you can tell because you're able to stay present in your body for longer periods of time and it feeling manageable. So you're growing in that capacity to be present with what's going on. And you're able to discern the sensations and emotions you're experiencing with more clarity. So you can go in there, you can notice much more quickly, oh no, I'm feeling shame, or I'm feeling anger, or there's a bit of resistance, oh there's tension, so oh no, I don't like that, oh there's thoughts coming in. You can see all these things with greater clarity, right? And you've, increasingly when you're going through life, you're pausing to go, oh, how am I feeling? What am I feeling in the body here? What am I noticing? These are the kinds of things that happen more frequently as you're doing this in kind of the stage 1. When it comes to stage 2, how can you tell if you're processing these emotions? Firstly, the first thing is it just kind of feels right. It feels good. It feels like a bit like a relief, like you're cleaning out a musty cellar, It's like there's this anger or this shame that's been down there just ruling your life and making you act in weird ways. Making you do say super cringe things at house parties or whatever it is. I don't know. And it's the pain is because we're resisting them because we can't go there. But as we learn to be able to go there and to feel it directly, really allow it, there's a real sense of relief to be able to finally cry or to finally be angry or to finally just allow that shame. So there's a real sense of like rightness and relief, even as these can be very challenging and painful sensations to feel, of course. I'm not pretending that isn't the case. But alongside the pain and the difficulty is a kind of a, oh, thank God, kind of feeling that comes in. And this could just be bit by bit, right? Sometimes, we learn to grow in capacity by starting to feel into these emotions bit by bit. So you can feel something all the way through, and that's when you'll feel the most rightness and relief. But you'll notice it even in small chunks. As you just nibble away at certain feelings, you'll start to feel some of these things. You'll notice also that it tends to wash through in waves. So there'll be a wave of sadness or a wave of anger, and then there's a bit of a lull. In that lull, you can feel the spaciousness afterwards. So you can feel this emotion coming up, being felt. It peaks and then kind of washes through you. And at that peak, you're fully there with it. It's like you can really feel this direct meeting of this energy. And then it peaks and then, and if you get that kind of activation and deactivation, that peak and that trough, that's a sign you're in the right place again. And then you can get several waves of this. And you'll notice that after each wave, there's a bit of a sense of spaciousness, a little bit more lightness. It's because you've integrated one of those waves. And in that space afterwards, where there used to be this, it's almost like where there used to be this pain, there's now just openness or emptiness. You'll also find that, kind of generally you feel lighter in the body and the mind because you're not carrying around that feeling with you. And all the associated patterns and thoughts that are connected to that feeling have also integrated and dissolved. And so it feels like you've just genuinely let go of something. A way you can also tell is because there are triggers that are associated with that. So say, you had a lot of shame in your body and then you get super triggered every time you had to speak in public. You notice that the associated triggers tend to get less intense and less frequent. So, you might still notice a bit there, But generally speaking, it'll be less intense and you'll get less triggered in that particular area. You will still get just as triggered in other areas where you haven't worked on those feelings. But wherever you've been working and nibbling away, the absence of triggers is a clear sign. In the stage 3, where you're integrating, connecting, developing this new self, you will notice that you are kinder to yourself and kinder to others. This is what, as a Zen master, Daizan Roshi of Zen Ways, used to always say this on his retreats that I've been on. And it was great. At the end, he's like, how can you tell these practices are working for you? It's because you're kinder to yourself and kinder to others. You also start to notice new ways of being, new capacities emerging that you didn't have before. Again, this can be in small ways. It's not going to transform you into some superhero overnight. But just, small shifts in your patterns, how you're relating to others, improvements in your relationships. You can focus a little bit better. It can be quite hard to spot these things because they can be quite small and subtle. But if you look back after a few months or a year or a few years of doing this work, you'll be amazed at how far you've come and the way you now live your life. And it's hard to spot because you kind of get used to it very quickly. And it's hard to say, like, oh, I used to get triggered, every single day, and now I only get triggered every other day. It's, you tend to focus on, I'm still getting triggered every other day. But the wonder and the magic is that you've halved the amount of triggers in your life, right? And that's the bit to then try and notice, oh, I've got these capacities and I'm not triggered so easily, and so on. Is there anything else I need to say about feeling your feelings? Ultimately, again, it's a question of love, really. It's like, as you want to be held and allowed just as you are, to really almost to like relax like a little baby in the arms of the universe, so do these parts of you want to be just held and seen and allowed. And if you can do that as best as you're able, these feelings will start to feel safe enough to come up, to be felt. And that transformation, that integration will occur, and you will be growing and developing and transcending your old self and moving and emerging into new modes of being that are more whole and more functional and more joyous and all that good stuff. If you need some support with this, I work with people one-on-one, helping them to feel their feelings, notice ways in which they're resisting or those protector parts that are coming in, helping to feel them safe enough to connect to their body, all that jazz. So you can check out the details below and book a call with me if you would like. Bye-bye.